Now for our first presenter, we'd like to welcome Allison Madison to the podium. She comes to us from Wisconsin, where she is a program manager for the Wisconsin Saltwise program. She is a native Wisconsinner and apparently hails from the jump rope capital of the world. I love doing this so I can do all these interesting research and get these facts, but Allison has an environmental science background, passion for education, and experience with engaging stakeholders and the public. Another interesting fact is that she is an educational songwriter, but we're not going to make her sing for us. But Allison, please come up.
All right, yeah, happy to talk to anybody about jump roping, although I was not a champion. So thank you so much for your time today, and I'm just, so thrilled to be here with all of you. Had some excellent conversations last night with some public works staff from Peru and Edinburgh, and this room is just so full of so many passionate folks, so I hope you really take time to engage. So I'll get started. I grew up, northern Wisconsin. You can see me there as a kid. My family rented a little bit of land. We had a trailer we'd go up to like almost every weekend. And I wanted to be out there in the water, on the water, catching frogs, canoeing, swimming, fishing. And it's that connection to water that makes me really passionate about this work. And I think that's true looking at the landscape here for a lot of you as well. So in Wisconsin, I run the Wisconsin Saltways program. Keeps me really busy, especially in the fall, because I work statewide, connecting with anybody, everybody that does winter maintenance or kind of intersects with that world, which is a lot of folks. In 2024, last year, we had more than a couple dozen events all across the state. You can see from the next couple bullets, trying to address some of the barriers, right, to best practices. And then I'm going to talk to you a bit about some of the collaborations that we've had and successes, including in the realm of public education, which has already been mentioned. So starting out here with open houses and training. So this is kind of my life for the next 2 months, traveling around the state and hosting more like sit-down kind of workshop events, but also equipment open houses. Those are my favorite because we bring a lot of folks together and we talk. We talk about, where you at? What successes have you had recently? What are your headaches, your pain points? What are your next steps? And it's those county folks talking to municipal staff, talking to contractors, where we really see kind of those aha moments and that sharing, knowledge sharing and partnership building that's been so important to this work. So when I'm talking to people, like public, private practitioners, first really needing to acknowledge that the reason that people are out there doing winter maintenance is to keep people safe, right? And that is top of mind. Trying to also then recognize, in addition to keeping people safe, which of course salt is a really easy way to do that, right? It's been really cheap and kind of just disappears, right? Unlike sand, you don't have to go back and clean it up. But we do have some issues with salt. It's not free, might be pretty cheap, not free. And also it does a lot of harm. In addition to what's happening to our water, I think the video mentioned that damage to infrastructure, to our cars, roads, bridges, vegetation, soils. So looking at that, but then recognizing that when people are out there, there's that known that maybe it's your family, your friends, your neighbors, colleagues are going to be driving on these roads, walking on these streets. So what are those level of service expectations? And when it is bare pavement, that's pretty tricky, right? I was talking to someone from, was it Washington County, New York, who is saying that their policy isn't bare pavement. So that changes things quite a bit. But when we have that from residents, from clients, if you're working on the private side, we need to balance that and recognize we've got another stakeholder group. So I was excited to see some local elected officials, some legislators in the room, right? How do we take a look at liability and the potential for some liability protections? Because it's that fear of liability, it's the #1 driver, right, of oversalting on the private side. And then grant programs, of course, can be really helpful. We've got a lot of vendors here. They're gonna be willing to share lots of solutions with us on the technology side, but those do have some cost to them. And so can we help people get going and catalyze some of those first steps to get new equipment out there? So I mentioned those open house events that I love so much. When we have those events, we really work to get the media to come and to use that, of course, as a place of education for the attendees, but also to get the word out to the public. Because we need everybody, all those residents, the clients, the legislators, they're also part of the public, right? We need them to be more aware of this issue. One, yes, there's a problem, but also there are solutions. There are real, actionable solutions right now. And so these events have helped us do that. There are a lot of reporters that are happy to come out and grab some footage, grab some B-roll of big trucks. It's kind of sexy. So we get that out there. We get a lot of media attention. And also at that event in De Pere, this is a few years ago now, we got some legislators to come. So instead of me going to the Capitol building and trying to talk to legislators and say, this is a problem you need to pay attention to, we need some support, the legislators are in their districts talking, hearing from their constituents who are experts in this work, and their eyes are opened to this problem. And so after that De Pere workshop, we had a staffer from State Senator Andre Jacques' office say, what can I do to help you guys out? And I said, well, I've got an idea here. What if we introduce a bill? We already have a solution that's working in New Hampshire. Dean's going to talk about that this afternoon. What if we take New Hampshire's limited liability program and bring it here to Wisconsin? This just makes sense. So we were able to get a bill introduced in 2023. I don't know if any of you guys recognize folks in the top photo, probably Martin Tirado from SIMA. Happens to be that the CEO of SIMA lives in Wisconsin. That was a big win for me. But yeah, so we brought together public works staff, private practitioners. The redhead in there is Jeremy Johnson from the Bruce Company, big landscaping and winter maintenance company, came to testify. And we got some committee hearings. We got it through committee. Of course, that takes some tweaks and some compromising there. We got the bill, though, to the floor for a vote, and it actually passed in both the Senate and the Assembly. But along the way, with some of those tweaks, we lost support from the Dems, and so our Democratic governor ended up vetoing this bill. So we had a good run, though, and I went back to the governor's staff and met with them and said, what'd you guys do? I know our governor really values our freshwater here in Wisconsin. He's put a lot of money towards other research and projects. What are we going to do about road salt? And I brought to them a grant program that's working in Ohio. I don't know how many of you guys are aware of the equipment grant programs that they have through the Ohio EPA. It's created by the governor, Republican governor, so we have a Republican-controlled legislature, so it's helpful to have that come from a red state. And we said, what if we do this? We get some of these dollars out there, and we can see that ROI within a year, like a couple years. That's money back in the pockets of local taxpayers. So we got that. We actually got $5 million in the governor's budget. But then, again, politics, different parties, we didn't end up getting it all the way through and being able to keep it in the budget. So my game plan for this fall is to get as many legislators as possible out to those equipment open houses. We need more people to understand this ourselves, even back in Wisconsin. So kind of still a work in progress on the legislative side, but one of the big wins of the work on that bill was that SIMA became our buddy. So Martin, of course, other folks from SIMA said, yeah, there's stuff happening here in Wisconsin. Like, we know we've got this salt symposium in New Hampshire. Many of you have maybe attended that, either virtually or in person. But we could create a similar event in Wisconsin. And we decided to kind of expand that, just call it the Midwest Snow and Ice Conference. We hosted that for the first time, so I say we, it was really SIMA, but I got to collaborate with them quite a bit on the planning in September, and then the second one happened actually just last week. So this is an event that brings in a lot of private contractors, but also some public work staff from across the state, Minnesota, Illinois, we got our Midwest states, but even there was someone from New York there last week. And I think there were 2 contractors from Vancouver, British Columbia. So say Midwest-ish. But the focus of this event, both this year, last year, is really best practices to help support those salt reductions. So this isn't me, this isn't Sawyer or Chris saying, we've got a problem and coming to you and say, how are we gonna fix it? It's the contractors talking with one another and sharing those successes. Last week I got to moderate a panel on salt reduction success stories with private contractors, sharing out, taking a look at contracts, operations, equipment, etc. And I'm sure this is way too small for you to read, but this is my buddy Aaron Rodman. He's actually going to give this presentation that he gave at the SIMA conference next month as a SaltWise webinar. So if anybody wants to see this, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. I'll put another pitch in for that in a moment. But I'm going to read to you the title. So I think he did have a different title, like officially, for his presentation. But he's like, yeah, they made me shorten it down. Aaron is a really salt of the earth, okay, pun intended, kind of guy. He runs Extra Mile Snow Company, Extra Mile Snow Plowing in West Bend, Wisconsin. So he's like, this is what I wanted the title of my talk to be. Make a ton more money by cutting how much salt you use. You don't have to buy a brine maker or a brine truck. It's stupid simple, and you're throwing your money away, and I want to help you. Oh, and it's better for the environment. A lesson by a dude who spent way too much money doing what all the old guys and the articles told him to do. So, really great. So, in working and talking with contractors, what we hear again and again is, you guys, you need to get out there, you need to talk to the property managers, right? If we get that phone call, come out, put more salt down, I don't see the salt, we need you to come back and resalt, it's hard, right? They are trying to keep their customers happy. And so we've started to have events for specifically property managers. Now I've worked with the contractors to get their property managers, and maybe, some property managers they'd like to have as their clients to come in the door and come to those events. We have the host, True Stage, in the Madison area. They're used to be CUNA Mutual, big insurance group. They have smart salting practices on their campus, and so they've been the host and also kind of a local leader there. We've got another one of those events coming up in February. So working to get more education out specifically to that stakeholder group. But the public education is pretty broad, right? We've got lessons for kids, for teachers. All of this stuff I'm sharing with you because it's online, it's available, it's free. You can take it, you can get it out there to teachers in your communities. Lessons from kind of K-8 and then more high school-based lessons where students can take a look at real data from streams. Now this is Wisconsin-based data, but still. And then kind of work through that in a claim evidence reasoning. So really tied with our next generation science standards. Doing fun projects. This was one with the city of Madison. Do you guys do any plow naming out here? Naming snowplows, I'm seeing some nods. A little silly maybe, but we've kind of taken that to the next level. I don't know if you can see the pun there, see more pavement. And then our buddy, Kent Schweitzer, took that photo. I had to drive him around, the photographer around to get the pics. Low budget here. But on the back of those little fun trading cards that are out at libraries for free are some facts about the plows and the equipment, and also some SaltWise facts too. Of course, social media, If you're on any of that, Facebook, Instagram, hitting different target groups, TV, I think water softeners. I was talking to someone from Connecticut, right? Water softeners are a big issue. Other people have water softeners in their communities. So we took old water softeners, converted them into buoys, and put them out in one of the saltiest lakes in Madison. We obviously got on TV, got on the front page of the Wisconsin State Journal. You know, it's that first step. This is that appliance that kind of forgotten in your basement that can be a major salt hog, right? And you're literally salting your own drinking water for a lot of people if you're on private well and septic. Fun things, working with artists, getting out, printing on t-shirts and clothing. And then this, really highly recommend, really simple, basic message for the average, resident: shovel more, salt less. I think a lot of people share, and we have two cups, 12-ounce mug of salt, enough for 10 sidewalk squares. But if you can get out there and you can shovel, maybe you don't even need salt. I grew up in my little jump rope capital of the world, 3,000 people. They didn't use salt, just a little bit of winter sand. And at home, we shoveled. You wore winter boots, right? Again, it's those level of service expectations that we have. But I think that basic message, shovel more, salt less, help keep our fresh water fresh. So many people don't connect those dots, right? The salt is going into our water. So we get those out to local businesses in areas that are, pretty pedestrian friendly. And a lot of businesses now, they're just like, yep, come around with the poster in the file, yep, we'll put that right up. So it's a small ask, right? But then it helps get, I think, them thinking about it, gets that message out there. And then I need a sip of water, excuse me. You can take a look at the page. The biggest public education push that we have is around Winter Salt Week. So this is the last week of January every year. And we started this as a Wisconsin-based campaign, focusing on, as my little tagline on the top says, raising awareness both around salt pollution, but also around those reduction solutions. So we've always kind of hit both the science of what we're seeing in our drinking water, in our groundwater, and try to talk about some of the reasons why there is hope here, right? If you tell people, this is another way that we're just kind of destroying the planet, it feels way too big, right? Like, what do you want me to do about this? But if instead we can show folks what many of you in this room have done, right, and those incredible successes with salt reduction, and see that's happening in their state, in their community, it's like, well, yeah, this is something good and positive, and I want to be a part of it too. So that's always been our messaging. These are some of the speakers. Many of you may recognize Phil Sexton, who will be presenting, one of our presenters. We have daily live streams, so they're live streamed on YouTube, really easy to join on. No Zoom meeting links to keep track of. And then getting some really great content, having some Q&A directly through the chat. So we're already planning, like I said, for 2026. And I see one of our former speakers, Sawyer Bailey, here in the front row. So all of those are then, remain archived on our YouTube channel. If you want to get involved promoting this, we have template press releases, both for municipalities, like counties. So, Edinburgh, Peru, you guys should get one of those press releases together, and you make a few little tweaks about what you've done, get that news out there, get that out there to the media, and get some news and some coverage. Template proclamations, different blurbs, articles, posts, just trying to make it easy as possible for folks to take that content and get it out there in your communities. So these are some examples from folks across the country that have done that this last year. So we have a proclamation actually from the whole state of Minnesota. And this is kind of a softball thing, like kind of fluffy, right? But I think at the same time, if we can get our legislators to put out a proclamation and say, it's Winter Salt Week. We've got a problem with salt in our water. There are things that we should be doing and thinking about. Like, that's the first step, right, for them to acknowledge that. And then we tee them up to maybe pass some real legislation. We got folks from Ohio, making social media videos that are way more viral than anything I can put together. We got people up in Maine talking about it on social media, folks in Pennsylvania doing testing of local waterways. And then in Wisconsin, we even have some reporters that now start coming to us in advance of Winter Salt Week and saying, hey, Winter Salt Week is coming up. Like, what do you have for us this year? What's something new that we can talk about on TV? And Spectrum TV is statewide, so pretty cool. Again, focusing on the pollution, focusing on those solutions. So as we move out of the winter season, which, I don't know for you guys here in Wisconsin, sometimes that's mid-April, that final snowstorm. A lot of people are just done, right? We're ready to move on. Let's get to spring, let's get maybe through mud season, I think is what you call it, Chris, and get to the summer. But I think it's really important as public works staff, contractors, professionals to come together and to say, okay, how did we do this winter? What went well, what didn't? How do we support one another more this coming year? So this is a photo from one of those events I put together, Saltwise Debrief in the Madison area. We also hosted one in the Milwaukee area, where we bring together people from the public works, that sector, public sector, and the private contractors, and sometimes the school districts, the universities, different equipment, right? Different, very different kind of units of area that we're looking at covering, but a lot of the same basic concepts there at play and same information. So we've got, lots of really rich conversations there. And these are some of the success stories that we have. So doing a little survey of people that have participated in our open houses and workshops the last couple years, we have over, say, 88% of them said they've received or achieved salt reductions. And they've done that through adjusting their application rates, more staff training, new equipment. And those are a couple case studies from the city of Oconto Falls, CJ's, obviously a private contractor in the Madison area, dropping their salt usage with Oconto Falls 25 to 40%, with CJ's 64%. And this is a contractor, he told me after this past winter, he could not believe this. So this was their first year with this brine truck. He said, I've never had time and material contracts. We've always been per event, per season. In other words, it's always been to my benefit to watch my salt, to be kind of conservative with my salt, because if I put more salt down, that's more money coming out of my pocket. Could not believe how much his salt application rates went down by switching over to brine. And what was it? From the village of Lake George, you said your first brine maker, right? 55-gallon drums. So similar story here in Wisconsin. This is the village of Walworth down by Lake Geneva in southeastern Wisconsin. Shannon Hammond, he's a one-man band pretty much. What does it say? He's the streets, parks, building, and grounds manager. So he came to one of the smart salting workshops that we had hosted by Walworth County. And so talked to folks from the county, got to hear from other municipalities around, and he's like, I want to get into this, but I can't come to my board and ask for, 20 grand, like that's out of my league. So he is incredible. I think there's so many amazing brains out here with a lot of the mechanics and in the staff able to do things that are, unbelievable to me, but created his own little brine maker with those 55-gallon drums. He took a truck he had, made a little PVC pipe reinforced with a stop sign post as his applicator bar. And again, some PVC pipe that he mounted up to a little sidewalk unit he already had. And he said, all in $1,200. Now he's saving $1,000 or more every single event. So he's going to be bringing this equipment to our events in Walworth County this fall, and excited to show that off. So these case studies have been really great when I go to try to talk to legislators, that kind of one-pager. Happy to share this template with people. We got a lot of these stories up on our Winter Salt Week website. But another way that we try to get out there and to share those stories are through those webinars. So I mentioned this earlier. They're all archived on our YouTube channel. Stories looking at policies in different states, looking at some of the science, and then stories with those practitioners. What are we doing? There's a lot of learning happening right now. I feel like it's a period of just a lot of opportunity. It's really exciting. But how do you take what you're learning at your agency and find time to get that out there, right? Not everybody has the ability to come to events like this. So I'm going to zero in here on Bill Kern. So he actually just retired, which is a loss, but he's out there. I think he's still going to be working as a contractor supporting other counties. And I should note here in Wisconsin, really unique, I think we're the only state where this is the case, our DOT does not own a snowplow. So again, our DOT does not own one snowplow. So all of the plowing that happens on our state highways and interstates is done by the county. So the county maintains county, state roads within their county. So kind of the counties are kind of like the top dogs there. I like to say they're kind of like the big brothers, and I want them to be sharing with the municipalities what they're learning. You know, it's different equipment, but there's a lot of knowledge there. So Bill Kern in Jefferson County here compared in the yellow, compared to all the counties around. And so what you're looking at right now is the tons of salt applied per lane mile. And this is just on the state roads also, because they need to report their salt use on the state roads, so the state will pay them back, right, for that salt they put down. So their salt use per lane mile over the last, what do we got, like almost 20 years. And you can see there's a lot of variability, right? Like we said, winters are different. And there's, in general, a great trend happening, right? A lot of that driven by brine use for anti-icing, pre-wetting, and as Bill talks about, for direct liquids. So Jefferson County has really been the leader in direct liquid application. And you can see how that has paid off for them. And I also should say, going back to those level of service expectations, right? It's not the same on every road in the county. So this is just a real quick clip from that webinar. I'm not sure actually if I just press play here. We're going to try this. We didn't test this. You guys can do the guinea pigs. This, if you can hear from Bill.
What we did is we split off a small county section. You'll see there are 22 lane miles near our county shop, right next to where we pull into our shop and have our brine tanks all set up. And we ran this route for the whole winter using this truck. And I'm going to give you just some results of that, what happened that winter. And we learned a lot of lessons that winter. But again, it's a triaxle plow truck we used to plow and win. So we would go and plow. This was the primary route. Nobody else was plowing this route, just this truck. We had 1,800 gallons of brine that had no salt. There's no rock salt actually on the truck at all. But it was 22 lane miles. And we used this section to test out our spray nozzles, our application rates, our reapplication rates, using different methods, using our spray bar, and a shorter spray bar or a center line spray bar. So we did a lot of things on this section as we went through the winter, but we made it through the whole winter without using rock salt. We did it for the entire winter, ended up having 31 recorded storms for that winter in 2017, 2018. And what we learned from that winter was what you see below. Positives, when we added it all up at the end of the year, 45% less salt was used on that route than on our other county routes that were in that area. Now to tell you straight up, probably 90%, probably between 90 and 95% of the storms, we used less salt. There was a few storms that we actually used more salt actually, because we have to reapply so often as a liquid as opposed to having salt out there. So there was a few storms we did, the vast majority of storms, we actually used less salt during the storm event. We had a quicker reaction, quicker melt. You can understand that. Again, put it on brine form, we get that melt reaction right away. So we were able to get to that bare up pavement quicker than our other section where we were using salt on many occasions. And it works best during a lot of the smaller events, especially dry events. You've got drier smaller, you want a lot of liquid. So that was the best side of it. The negative side of it, or the worst side of it, was if you had a high moisture event storm. Or if we went out there in the morning and we had a lot of snowpack because the storm came overnight, we had to put 3 or 4 inches of hard pack overnight, we weren't out there. It took a lot more work sometimes to get it actually back up again. It's only brine, you're not having any salt there actually during the snow event. And the other negative was how quick it could refreeze. So we had to take that into account, is how often we had to go out and reapply in that smaller section. So again, those were the negative sides, but what we learned that one winter with cutting our salt usage by almost half, and actually having not only the same level of service, but potentially a little higher level of service with how we got the roads cleaned up, it told us that we needed to start moving towards more liquid use and getting liquid use on our trucks and out to our dyes. So.
All right, so you can watch the rest of that if you like on our YouTube channel. Just one quick photo from another webinar. This is with Chris Johnson and Stevens Point, who the React folk, I was talking to whoever's the vendor from React Blades. They're piloting those right now, but they've been a leader in central Wisconsin. You can see this little quick cheat sheet for operators. Just take a look at what's your pavement temperature. They've got that data right there in the cab and adjust the application rates accordingly. Huge savings through calibration alone, but then adjusting those rates. And then the last thing I'll mention is collaborating with APWA. So American Public Works Association does a ton at the national level, but also those state chapters. I don't know if you guys have multiple chapters here in New York. In Wisconsin, we just have one. So getting involved with them in a lot of different ways, but one of the big things was taking that national award. So there's an excellence in snow and ice control award at the national level, but a lot of smaller municipalities aren't really competitive for that. And we said, we need to change that. So in Wisconsin, we created that award, and we have 3 different categories based on population size. So we really do get to celebrate the wins and the successes that we're seeing, whether it be Shannon at the Village of Hammond, all the way up to counties like Jefferson County. So going forward, I would say take that time to celebrate. It's easy in this work, public works, there's always something else, right? We're on to the next thing. So taking a moment to celebrate, internally with your staff, and then as much as you may not like getting out in front of cameras, like getting the word out about what you're doing to the public. Happy to have folks join webinars, maybe give a webinar. Love to have some people from New York on. And then continue to strengthen those partnerships. So incredible partnerships, obvious right here in Lake George. Hopefully this is a catalyst to build more of those across the state. And maybe join this regional campaign we have, Winter Salt Week. So with that, I don't know if we have time for questions.
Yep. Thank you. We do have time. A question over there, Dave.
Yeah, hi, David Miller, Adirondack Council. Just a point of information for you as you go forward. New York State DEC has a road salt storage and best management practice equipment grant program, which is part of the Clean Water Fund.
Yes.
In New York State, and for those that don't know that, please look into it. Part of the WQIP program, 2 years ago, us and others were able to successfully amend the road salt storage grant program, which is a matching grant program, to also include, I think I was loud enough, to also include best management practices. So those of you here today, as you go forward and think about your future needs, you'll not only pay back your equipment in lower road salt bills that you'll have, you can match it with grants from New York State moving forward. The next round will be out next spring, and please apply. It's to your benefit.
Thanks, Dave. Any other questions? I had one, Allison. So you were talking about the property managers and residents. It seems like you talked to the property managers, but is there some pushback from residents? So, what's that exchange between the two? Because sometimes the residents, they want to hear that cracking or popping.
Yeah, so I think we've actually done a better job right now reaching I'm gonna say the general public, right? Because I have more renters who reach out to their property managers and sometimes CC me in, and then they say, hey, there's all this salt. I don't want to see it. Like my dog is, it's painful to watch my dog try to walk out across the salt. And then they'll sweep the salt off the sidewalk, and now my dog is even, trying to make mincing steps on sometimes the grass right after the snow melts. The salt is still there. So I think we've done a better job with our general outreach than we have with the property managers so far, because again, for them, it's the fear of liability.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Allison. I think we will, one more question? Okay, sorry.
Hi, Allison. Marie from Fireside Wood. We're a private contractor in Lake Placid. So one of the issues we have are with short-term rentals. And I was just wondering, in terms of the level of expectation that you were talking about. So I was wondering, in Wisconsin, like the property managers, how are they dealing with short-term rentals, expectations, et cetera?
So I would say, again, like the property managers are like a newer group for us to be reaching. We don't have the property managers yet as champions and kind of communicating the message. So it's more kind of, we have contractors on board. We're kind of working with them to educate the property managers, and then sometimes the renters will say, we don't like this, right? A lot of the businesses don't want that salt being tracked in, right? But yeah, I can't say we've got the secret sauce right now for property managers. It's still a work in progress.
All
Yeah.
right, that sounds great, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Allison.